Seats. We're going to start the meeting, public hearing. 6:37. Welcome. And just as a reminder, we have a sign-in sheet in the right here. We have the agenda and the list of all the applicants. If you have not signed in yet, please do so. A few reminders. Thank you. Oh, no, that's fine. So we're just going to go ahead and say that for the record, the purpose of the public hearing is to provide the agency applicants with the opportunity to address the full advisory committee and present the facts pertaining to the program, the service, or the project that you have submitted CDBG funding request for. Just please take note of the following. You will be provided 3 minutes for your presentation for each application that you submitted. Some agencies submitted more than one. For each additional application, you'll get an extra 2 minutes. Another thing to just keep in mind is just to be prepared that full funding recommendations may not be possible. So if you can, please let the advisory committee know if a partial funding, how that will affect your request and the program that you're requesting funding for. Last one would be the advice. There are subcommittees that have been established. You should have been contacted by the advisory committee members. If not, you'll be hearing from them soon. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call the CDBG office. And now I'm going to turn the microphone to our new CDAC chair, Alexis Bulgaris.
Hi, thank you all very much for coming this evening, and our committee looks very forward to hearing about your programs and the applications that you've submitted. And I'd like, if we could just start down the line, have everyone take a moment and introduce themselves so you know who we are.
Judy Goss. Beth Crummett with the BE.
Bill Collins.
Samarka Nutan, I'm District 4.
Patty Roberts, District 5.
Winston Robinson.
Stephen Rubin, District 3.
I'm not getting too old to remember. I'm Chris Von Keisen. I'm District 8.
Alan
Grade 8, Costco. Sorry.
Alan Gunsberg, Department of Social Services.
Great, thank you very much. As Princess said, we're going to start in order, in the order in which the applications were received, and each presenter will have 3 minutes for, if they only have one, 3 minutes, and if they have additional applications, then 2 minutes for each. So I'd like to start with our first presentation, which is going to be Kids in Crisis.
Oh, we should mention that we have a Barbara from our office keeping the record, keeping the time.
The important one of this whole group.
So you'll get a 30-second warning if you're
Perfect.
close to it.
Perfect, thank
3
you.
minutes.
My name is Sherry Shapiro, and on behalf of the infants and children served by Kids in Crisis, we are here to respectfully request $15,000 to support critically needed emergency shelter, respite, and assessment services for infants and young children. The children who seek refuge at Kids in Crisis need therapeutic services to help them deal with the trauma that brought them into emergency care. Through the professional services received by our Kids in Crisis social worker, the children and their families are able to work together to identify the problems they are facing, develop a plan of action, and begin the healing process. Recently, children ranging in age from 8 months old to 17 years old have found a safe haven at Kids in Crisis. Many of these children were in emergency care due to homelessness. Some of the children were homeless because their parent no longer had a place to live, and some were thrown out of their home for a variety of reasons. Because of the services provided at Kids in Crisis, these children received high-quality emergency respite, assessment, and the medical care that they need and deserve. They were able to return to their families in most cases with community connections made by Kids in Crisis and continued aftercare support through our social worker. The funding request we have before you today will help to ensure that the abused, neglected, homeless, and at-risk children receive clinical and therapeutic services. Specifically, the funds will support the bilingual social worker position. This individual is responsible for providing individual, group, and family counseling, development and implementation of a treatment plan, and aftercare services provided upon discharge. For many children and families, this translates to having someone walk side by side with them through their crisis, providing the resource, guidance, and support they need. The social worker assists the children with school-related issues, provides the family with assistance obtaining housing and employment, and provides intensive counseling helping them to deal with the trauma that brought them to Kids in Crisis. We now receive no state funding for any of our services. There are no state-funded beds south of New Haven. As a result, we are now in the position of having to do more with less. Sadly, our numbers continue to increase. Your support will help us ensure that children in crisis get the help and care that they need.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And does anyone from the committee have a question that they'd like to ask before? Yes.
And could you tell me, please, how has your budget changed this year compared to last year?
The funding that we lost from the state was $750,000. The funding ended in November. I do want to just point out, we received a fully executed contract from the state of Connecticut for July 1, 2016 for 4 years. That contract was then canceled in August of 2015. So it was not, we were blindsided. We actually had cut back on the program and the budget in the spring of that year because we did not know where contracts were going to lie within the state. And when we received the fully executed contract, we started moving full speed ahead, only to have to fall backwards again. So it was a loss of 750, which translates, this year we received 290 because it ended in November. So next year will be the first year without the full 750. And we are looking at different opportunities to make that up. We did apply to the State Department of Housing because these are homeless children, and the State Department of Housing has provided funding for veterans, for homeless families, for many different segments of the population. And we felt it was only appropriate to support children as well. Unfortunately, at the time of funding, the State Department of Housing also got cut. So we are really chasing our tail. We don't want to have to say no to kids, but the next step is going to be reduce the capacity of the beds that we provide because we can't continue to operate at a deficit. So I also want to point out one of the most interesting numbers. Greenwich has always been the third highest community we served, with Stamford and Norwalk as cities being much larger in numbers. These past few, almost 6 weeks, our Greenwich calls to our hotline and services have been at 50%. And that is a tremendous increase. A lot of that is around homeless, it's around undocumented immigrants, and many of them are middle school age kids, which is really an increase that we've noticed that is very different.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Chris and then Sam.
Yes, you're first speaker, but you're also a good model for what we can expect coming down the road with a lot of state funding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you'll survive this year, as you made tremendous, extraordinary efforts, as everybody else has, to make up the difference. It's not likely that the state's going to be cured within the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Correct.
So it looks to me like most not-for-profits can't look to pathways, go down a lot of our services in Spirica who depend on state thing. Actually, it is a state responsibility, which they're abnegating, but we won't go into that. Remember, the state first farmed out their responsibilities to the private sector and the community things, like Pathways, for example, is a good example. Cleared the mental institutions. And let the
Chris,
communities
I'm
handle
sorry, are you going to ask a question?
Yes, there is a question to this, but
Okay.
I'm saying, so the point I'm getting at is, but this is a basis for everything we're going to deal with tonight.
Yes.
To large, because that's the elephant in the room, or the donkey, whichever way you want to put it. The state responsibilities to the communities. They basically, what they did is they contracted out to people like Kids in Crisis and Spirica Pathways to take care of state responsibilities. Now the state is refusing or not able to pay for them. How are you going to survive the next 5 years? You obviously have to change your whole paradigm of funding.
Absolutely.
And it's not like you aren't using the private sector fundraising already.
Correct. We are primarily about 85-90% privately funded at this point, and there's obviously some limits there. I actually would like to just comment on how I think we're all doing this, and I think we are very fortunate and blessed in this part of the state to have wonderful colleagues and comrades. And I think we work in partnership, we work in collaboration, we form consortiums. We're not going to let people fall through the crack if we can help it. But having said that, we have bills that need to be paid and staff that need to be secured. And so I don't know the answer to how we're going to do that, Chris. We are actually in the midst. We have a consultant group that was donated to us by a very generous foundation to look at long-term sustainability.
For yourselves.
For kids in crisis.
There was also, wasn't there a conference among all the not-for-profits in this area about what to deal with this at one point? Last January or February?
Well, I think we're always sitting around
I
tables
thought there
trying
was a
to
meeting
figure
because
out.
of this where you directly looked at what are we going to do
Absolutely.
in
And here
the industry.
Yeah, I
Right.
think-
Here in the community of Greenwich, I think that we are very blessed with a very strong Department of Social Services under Dr. Barry's leadership. He's constantly convening groups of providers to say, how are we going to make sure that those in our community need help? But we can't leave any stone unturned,
So
and that's why.
he's taking the leadership
Chris,
in this?
He
you know what,
absolutely.
in the best interest of time, let's stick
Well, all
to
I'm
one
saying is that this
question
is-
and
Yeah, I
move
understand, but
on.
this is one question which is going to go through all of the next groups that are coming in, because it underlines that when we look at our priorities and we look at the importance of what we're doing, we're in a new world than we were last year. The circumstances are quite different, drastically different, and I want to know what to expect as we look at this. How can we judge how we parse out this money if we don't know how they're able to respond to it?
Unfortunately, I think sadly, the answer to that question is we are going to see loss of services. There's no doubt that as communities, we all can't pick up 750,000, 500,000, whatever it is. But having said that, I think we are going to continue to work as collaborative partners to make sure that nobody's falling through the holes.
So you're going to go prioritize your services and go for the most needed and work back? Is that what you do? Make sure that the critical ones...
And walk hand in hand with all these people to make sure we get there.
So she's answered your
In the
question.
spirit of
Thank you.
time, Chris, I think we got to move on.
Yeah.
One question?
Sam was actually next, so.
Just very quickly, Sherry, are the beds filled now? And one other, have you applied for other grants? Are there other grants you can apply for, please?
Yes, we are continually applying for grants. We had been working on a 20-bed model, 10 beds in each house. We are now working on a 12-bed model, staffing for 12 beds. When we exceed 12, we don't want to ever say no to a child. We're pulling in substitute part-time staff that are trained, but we're not keeping all 20 beds. It's pretty much what a pediatric unit does. Having said that, our beds are running at almost 100% capacity at the 12.
Alan, did you want to?
The only question I had is, you've asked for $15,000. Can you take less? Because there isn't that much money this year, again.
Alan, I will never say no to funding. And I truly understand the difficult decisions you have, because I don't want you to say no. I mean, again, I need everybody in this room to provide services to the kids I'm serving. So I value what you need to do. I know it's a tough decision. I would love 15,000, I would love 150,000, I would love 750,000. But clearly, we need to piece things together, because we do believe it has to be a public-private partnership, and community development is very much a part of that.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I just want to remind everyone on our committee that we do have subcommittees formed, which will be going out to the various agencies, and that really is a great opportunity to ask some of perhaps the more in-depth questions that we're asking now, and we can present those findings when we next meet. So we can move this meeting along in the most expeditious way possible for both the applicants and ourselves. All right, so the next group is Meals on Wheels of Greenwich.
My name's Lenore DeChapel. I'm Vice President of Meals on Wheels, and we've been a grateful recipient of funding from CDBG for the past several years. This year, our grant application is for $5,000. Very briefly, we are an organization with currently 110 clients. We deliver to every corner of Greenwich with 45 volunteer drivers doing that work. We have one part-time employee. Everything else on Meals on Wheels is done by volunteers. We can happily tell you that our volunteers are able to visit with, at times, our clients, and are possibly only the one person they may see that day. We provide 2 meals a day, one hot, one cold, and I think our service is known pretty much to most of you, and we've been around for 56 years.
Great.
Any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
Great. Oh, we have one.
Yes.
Yes.
How many of your clients are short-term clients and how many are long-term?
Most of them are long-term clients. Of course, they're the elderly and infirm homebound. And I could guess at a percentage and tell you that maybe 25% are those who have just come home from a hospital or from a nursing home and need temporary delivery of meals. Beth? Yeah.
Are you seeing an increase in the number of clients that you're
This
serving?
number has stayed pretty steady for the last year, but prior to that, our numbers increased by about 25 or 30% from, 2 years ago to 5 years prior to that, for some reason. But we've stayed steadily at about 110, 115.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have the YWCA of Greenwich.
Hi there. I'm Meredith Gold. I'm the Director of Domestic Abuse Services of the YWCA Greenwich. And we are requesting $15,000 today, $10,000 for our emergency shelter program, and $5,000 for our crisis counseling services. As many of the people in this room do, anyone who works with people knows that you're working with victims of domestic violence. It's just the way that it goes. But the YWCA is the only licensed and accredited program in Greenwich to deliver services specifically for victims of domestic violence. We serve women, children, and men who are directly impacted by domestic violence or whose lives are impacted by domestic violence either through friends or family members, coworkers. We provide a scope of service including shelter, the crisis services, individual counseling, group counseling, and in the last couple of years our community education and prevention work has really expanded, which is terrific, and it's resulted in an increase of visibility and accessibility to our services. So what we're finding is that more people are calling and more people are in need of a greater scope of service. So whereas someone may have come into our shelter in the past, which is designed to be short-term, by the way, 3 to 7 nights, we're finding that people are now staying up to 2 months because they're lacking the resources of moving on. And other shelters within the state are operating above capacity on any given day. So we never turn anyone out into the street. So someone coming in, they're in danger. They've maybe left with just the clothes on their backs, with no resources, and the other longer-term domestic violence agencies in the state are full. So we're keeping people for longer periods of time. We've also recently launched a program in collaboration with the Greenwich Police called the Lethality Assessment Program, which identifies the victims who are at highest risk of actually being killed by their partners. And this has also resulted in an increase of accessibility of our services to those who are at really the highest risk and danger of domestic violence. In addition, the state funding, as Kids in Crisis mentioned, has been cut for shelter throughout the state. At this time, the funding that we do receive reimburses us for about $7 a night for a bed night, which costs us $200. So we are really operating at a deficit here as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Oh, Sam has a question.
excuse me, it's $7 a night now or was before?
It is now in this year. We'll see what happens going into fiscal year 17.
What was it before?
That it is now
Oh,
$7.
Presently appropriated.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I don't know if I'm correct, but I thought I read in the paper that you were granted a $350,000 grant from the state. Is that not correct?
The STEEP, I think you're talking about the STEEP grant, which I think was $200,000, which was a grant that the town of Greenwich applied for, specifically to fix some leaky roofs that we have. So
It's capital.
It's a capital improvement, and it's 100% of the cost of that project. But that was a grant that the town of Greenwich applied for
Okay,
Leaky.
and you didn't receive any other grants then?
from
State.
The state?
From the state, yes, we do. We receive non-government grants as well as government grants every year to cover all of our services. So I'm focusing today on shelter
Yes.
and the crisis, but we have a whole nother scope of services that I haven't mentioned.
I'm sorry, Ms. Dan. I'm confused whether we're talking about the YW as an entity or just the DAS part of the YW.
Well, today we're talking just about domestic abuse.
These are the questions that, I didn't know what Ms. Tan was asking about what the YW was
yes.
receiving or whether
No,
DAS.
I'm talking about domestic violence.
Oh, just simply domestic violence, okay.
You're in the YWCA.
Yes.
I know. Okay.
So the 100,000 wasn't for DAS, that was for the
For the
YWCA.
YWCA's
Forgive me.
roofs, exactly.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr.
So we have a
Whatever
question
you
down
want.
there.
Yes, could you please tell me what percentage of the total budget on an annual basis this program is?
The domestic abuse services. I'm going to actually default, we have our Chief Advancement Officer who can speak to the greater YWCA finances better than I can.
Thank you. So our total operating budget is $7
Can you
million.
identify yourself?
Monica Borgi, Chief Development Officer. Our total operating budget is $7 million domestic abuse services. We give away $2 million in free services annually. The shelter program and the counseling program combined is about 25% of the $2 million for the domestic abuse services program alone.
2 million altogether that you budget for domestic abuse, shelter, everything all rolled.
For the free services. So that's what we need to raise annually. All of our domestic abuse services are free
Right.
combined, and we need to raise $2 million annually to provide all the free services we offer.
Out of
But the
your
shelter
7 budget.
and the counseling makes up $500,000
Of that 2 million.
of the $2 million.
Are there any other questions?
I wanted to,
sorry.
just as a point of information, with regards to Sam's question, the STEEP funds that the town, it's actually the YWCA submitted the application with the town's blessing, because under the STEEP program, the town has to submit the application. And so they were granted $246,000 and $246.96. And so that's for part of the roof, that's the domestic abuse, and some lighting and bathrooms.
Didn't we have that request before us last year?
It was, this is the third year. It had been submitted, and the last
weren't
two was
able to
denied.
do
This
it.
was the first year, it was, yeah.
So you asked CDBG money, that we weren't able to provide that for the same thing?
A while
I thought
back.
you'd asked
Yeah,
for it.
a while back.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I thought. and we
Yeah,
weren't
maybe
able-
3 years ago, 4 years ago.
So this is an
this year.
alternate way to find funding?
Yes.
Correct.
Oh, thank you.
And it's a bricks and mortar
Yeah. no, no.
grant.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Our next presenter is Jewish Family Services of Greenwich.
Hi, I'm Elise Brown. I'm the Program Director for Supermarketing for Seniors, the free grocery shopping and case monitoring service that Jewish Family Services sponsors for homebound seniors living in Greenwich, and we have been doing so for the past 30 years. First, my thanks to the committee for inviting us to speak to make a case for continued funding for supermarketing for seniors. Created in 1986, our program has become a much relied on service within the community, regardless of the religion, race, or financial status of our clients. We service upwards of 160 clients per year with the help of 60 shoppers, both volunteers and seniors who receive a small stipend for their shopping services. All of our shoppers are trained and to keep an eye out for issues of concern regarding the health and well-being of their clients, such as changes in cognition, hygiene, and the ability to maintain a home on their own. We maintain contact with the DSS at home in Greenwich, the State Department of Adult Protective Services, the Greenwich Hospital Clinics, the Greenwich Housing Authority, and we make referrals to other agencies as appropriate to clients' needs. Our caseworker is a licensed clinical social worker, and she visits the clients when it's needed. As with other non-for-profits, the economy continues to affect our bottom line. We rely on donations from local churches and synagogues, private foundations, corporations, and grants such as the CDBG to fund our program. And we receive donations from our shopping clients as well, and their families. However, in recent years, funding levels have been cut back due to changes in the philanthropic goals of a number of our traditional supporter foundations, including a significant cutback by the Greenwich United Way. We are, as a result, operating at a deficit, and we're reaching out to new sources of funding to fill the gaps in our budget. So far this year, we've approached 7 new foundations, and we have received a $5,000 grant from one of them. We have not heard from the others as of yet, but we are hopeful. Last month, we brought in increased donations from our shopping clients through a special appeal, and they were generous within their means, sending in nearly as much from one letter as we previously received from them for an entire year. A longtime client recently wrote, "What a wonderful service you offer. I can't ever thank you enough for what it's done for my life. There aren't enough words to tell you what an angel my shopper is to me. We've struck up a nice little friendship. She not only shops for me, but also checks in with me to make sure I'm okay. She's a real gem, and so is this service you provide." People occasionally ask us if there's a comparable service where they live, but ours is a unique service model, and Greenwich is the beneficiary. And we're hopeful that the CADC will once again, committee will once again consider supporting supermarketing for seniors, considering it a worthwhile program. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Great, thank you very much.
That's because you're a well-known group.
River House, the Greenwich Adult Daycare Center?
Good evening. I'm Donna Spellman. I'm the Executive Director of River House Adult Day Center. And first, I just want to thank you for all the support that you've given us throughout the years. I'm going to speak so briefly because wait till you hear who's with me. I just want to remind people that River House is the only adult day center serving the Greenwich community. And, you know, what I like to tell people and remind people is that though we might not have a cure for dementia and we might not have a cure for Alzheimer's, which more than 80% of our clients have, what we do at River House is give people the absolute best day every day. So I'm going to let my coworker, Lindsay DiMatteo, tell you about that.
Hello, my name is Lindsay DiMatteo. I'm the Director of Therapeutic Recreation. The Wellness Therapy Program at River House is a series of holistic classes that we offer to all of our enrolled seniors. It includes programs such as yoga, creative movement, art therapy, music therapy, and equine therapy that focus on stimulating the mind, body, and spirit connection. Our goals with this grant are to enhance our already successful music and art therapy programs, as well as develop a new equestrian care program. The music therapy program we have in place at River House is without a doubt a favorite among our clients. Every time I observe this program, I'm amazed by how engaged and enchanted all of the participants are. The benefits of using music therapy in an environment such as River House are undeniable. Music stimulates both verbal and motor areas of the brain, and it can even foster periods of improved memory and mood. Our art therapy program provides participants with an opportunity to engage in a meaningful experience and express themselves creatively. Creating and seeing art wakes up the right hemisphere of the brain and actually encourages both sides of the brain to stimulate new and stronger connections. And the artwork that has come from this program is just incredible. Lastly, I wanted to briefly discuss a very exciting and innovative program that is brand new to River House. The Therapeutic Equestrian Care Program at New Canaan Mounted Troop is a program that works towards building leadership, responsibility, and confidence through horsemanship.
Participants get the chance to visit the facility and interact with horses while working together to complete tasks given to them by their instructors. They address skills such as social interactions, self-confidence, fine motor skills, and spatial awareness. Tomorrow will be the final session of our initial test run, which we set up in order to determine the potential success of the program. And the opportunities that were given to the test participants have been so unbelievably unique and beneficial. One participant had never met a horse in person before. Another client, Ronald, was so grateful for the experience to relive the time he spent around horses in his youth. After our last session, he said, "I really love it. I used to have a horse in Jamaica. Her name was Daisy, and I would clean her and brush her and ride her. I like that I can come here each week and do it again, and do it good, too." The enthusiasm and pure joy that Ronald and the other participants showed me during this trial run proved that this program would be an invaluable addition to River House.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Question.
Mr. Von Kaiserling?
Yes, we have a 16,600, et cetera, grant you're requesting. How much of that is music therapy? How much of that is art therapy? How much is equine therapy?
Let me turn that over to her.
I'm Britt Particelli, Director of Marketing and Development. So the grants for the specific programs, I can get you the broken down once we meet in subgroups. But basically, there's 13,000 of that 16 goes to the therapists in particular of all of those programs. So the extra costs on there are River House staffing, that, health aides that help with motor skills and toileting and all of that kind of stuff, and supplies. So the 13,000 is for therapists.
I'm confused here.
Yeah.
Your 3 therapy programs.
Yeah, so
Your employment, your personnel needs are the same if you had 2 of those programs instead of 3?
No. So the 13,000 that I was talking about is for 3 different therapists.
Roughly 4,000 apiece. Is that fair to say?
Roughly, yes.
So of the 16,000, about 4,000 would be for each one of these therapy groups?
Yes.
Music, okay. That's all right. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We may want to break down the subcommittee. Right. And the next presenter we have is Neighbor to Neighbor.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nancy Coughlin. I'm the Executive Director of Neighbor to Neighbor. We're Greenwich's Food Pantry and Clothing Room. I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to apply for funding and also for your dedication to this important program. Neighbor to Neighbor provides 17,000 shopping bags of good quality in-season clothing, linens, household items to 2,600 residents of Greenwich, Stamford, and Portchester every year. We also provide access to fresh, healthy, nutritious food to 1,900 unique individuals each year. 85 to 90% of those are Greenwich residents who are able to come to our food pantry once a week. The other 10 to 15% are residents of Stamford and Portchester who are eligible to get one-time emergency food while we connect them with the food pantries that serve their areas. About half of our clients are children, 16% are elderly, 11% are disabled, and ours was the first client choice pantry in our area, which allows our clients to choose their own food from a healthy selection of food based on a point system. So we're very proud that we were the leader among our peers in promoting dignity. We have 2 applications pending. One is for our summer supplement program, and one is for our building. And the building is listed first, so I'll talk about that. This is our 3rd application for funding for this project. We applied in payment year 15 for $187,000. We were awarded $50,000. We applied last year, payment year 2016, for the balance. We were recommended for $50,000 for that as well. This year, we're applying for $79,900, which is the cost of the elevator. The major drivers of us moving out of this space we're in, which we started investigating during the recession when we had a 50% jump in clients. Became painfully obvious that we can't continue to operate in the basement we're in. We're in 2 non-contiguous basement spaces that are not handicap accessible. They're quite difficult to access if you have any limitations in your physical mobility for our clients and also for our donors and for our volunteers. So handicap accessibility is one of the great joys that we will enjoy in our new building. One of the components is for the elevator. So the elevator will allow our clients to access the clothing program, which will be on the 2nd floor. The food pantry will be on the 1st floor. This allows us to have a 2-story building, which allows us to have a smaller footprint, a lower environmental impact, and still have full access to our programs. We have filed for the final site plan approval for this project last week. So we're hoping we'll be heard for our final approvals in July. It's possible we might not get on the agenda until August 2nd. And we're hoping that we will have one hearing and move through to get our final approvals. Then we've got another 60 days to get building permits. So if we're not able to be heard in August, that pulls us over till September. So right now we're looking at hopefully getting building approvals late fall. Building permits late fall, being able to break ground. Then we're weather dependent, so late fall, early spring, groundbreaking. I probably should take questions on this application before talking about summer supplement, or do you want me to just do both?
Yeah, just do both.
Okay, those are the major points on the new building, and I know you're going to have questions. Summer supplement. So one of the programs we do in our food pantry, we have our weekly supplement, which is different than most pantries. Most pantries are emergency only, or they're once a month. Our clients can come, our Greenwich residents can come once a week. The great joy for me is that they can then have fresh produce every week. Our emergency food program for Stanford and Portchester residents is one time only, once ever. In the summer, we provide a summer supplement. So this is intended to make up for the fact that our clients are eligible for free and reduced price lunches. During the school year, they're getting the benefit of having that free and reduced price meal 5 days a week. And then in the summer, they're home. So that's an extra burden on their families. And potentially, they're losing out on the nutrition that they should be getting in their school meals. So we provide extra food to our clients. Any clients that have school-aged children, we provide peanut butter, jelly, tuna fish soup, fresh vegetables, fruit, bread. And they get that extra food every week. And it's designed to provide seven meals a week for each school-aged child. Historically, the Bishop's Fund for Children helped us fund this program. That funder collapsed. They wound down. They no longer exist. Sorry, I'm not.
Disappears.
There's a word for that. So they're no longer dissolved. Thank you. Dissolved is the right word. So they're no longer a source of funding. That's one reason that I've come to you this year for a larger amount than we've had in past
Nancy.
years.
Sorry.
Okay, it's also a longer summer. We've got 10 weeks instead of 8.
So, who has questions related to
I
this?
have a quick question.
Okay, sure.
My question's about the elevator. This is for the new building, I suppose?
Yes.
So when they designed the new building, they didn't design it, it seems like a fancy building. They didn't budget for an elevator in it when they were designing the plans for the building?
Well, so we're still raising funds for the building. So whatever funding we're not able to secure through this project, we'll make up through other sources. It's not going to hold up the building or stop the building from being built. We're committed to building the building. But we've received $100,000 from block grant money. We also have received a steep grant similar to the YWCA. That's $250,000. The balance has been raised privately.
Right. So just for big picture idea, how much money is the building going to cost in totality in your mind?
The building itself, the physical structure,
Assuming
will
the land's
be
free.
right. Will be 1.9 million.
How much have you raised of the 1.9 so far?
We've
Between public and
raised
private?
well. the building itself is 1.9, and then there's the landscaping, the drainage,
The
the
building,
parking,
project.
The
the
project,
project
okay.
itself. The project itself, we hope, is not going to be more than $4 million. And we've raised $3.5 million, a little more than $3.5 million.
1.9 for the building, 4 altogether.
Right.
So half the building and half landscaping, et cetera?
Landscaping, yeah, site development,
T&C
architect
permits,
fees,
yeah.
permitting fees, the lawyer's bills are
Contingency.
cha-ching, cha-ching, yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
Oh, Alan had a question.
Do you still plan on bringing a
Business.
prefabricated building, or?
Yes,
You're being broadcast.
Thank you so much.
yes, yes,
So
yeah.
the elevator will be already installed in it, or is that
No.
a separate company that comes in, they deliver a building with a shaft in it?
Right.
And then you
Put the
outfit it
elevator
with
in.
an elevator?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Chris, you had a question?
Yeah. I understand that you're cobble, I mean, you've got $4 million project, and like everything else, you cobble some, we have one big grant, one big person who gave you a hunk of money, and then you're picking pieces and parts together to make the rest, like any other project, schools or otherwise. The elevator is because of the, what is the term, Alan, for?
The building has to be compliant with the American.
ADA compliant.
ADA.
Yep.
What happens if you aren't ADA compliant, your building?
We won't
No,
get
is it-
building permits.
So you could, if you don't get an elevator, which makes it ADA, you don't get a building.
You cannot build a building now that's not ADA
So this is
compliant.
a make it or break it
mandatory.
situation.
Were you in the historic district, though? I thought there was a
No.
opt-out.
Not for new,
Not for that.
not for new construction.
So this elevator is critical to the whole project.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, so on the supplemental, if I'm clear on this, your supplemental program is making up for the federal government's program in the school system that goes the rest of the year.
That's right.
So this guarantees that these children have one, the whole idea of this free and reduced lunch is that the kids have one good nutritional meal a day. So what you're doing is ensuring then that they have that one municipal through the summer.
Yeah, it's
Where
an,
normally they'd be eating dirt or something.
well, it's in
Yeah.
addition to our regular allotment, so I hope they have more than one healthy meal a day. But yes,
Thank you.
it's the extra, they have extra food needs when they're home. Right.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Oh,
I think Catherine had,
I was just going to ask, how many of these children that benefit from the summer supplement program are also have access to the neighborhood schools which are serving breakfast and lunch?
so all of them do. The difference is that the neighborhood schools' lunches are served on site. So you have to go to the site and you can have them. It's almost more akin to a soup kitchen where we are a pantry that provides groceries that are provided at home. That's the main difference. And if I'm not, I won't speak out of turn on I don't think they income qualify. So I think it's sort of an honor system with the summer meal sites. But I might be wrong on that. That was the case. I don't know if that's still the case. So kind of anybody can go.
great. Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next presenter is the Food Bank of Lower Fairfield County.
They have 2, so 5 minutes. Barbara? Is she all set for 5?
If it pleases the committee, we would like to go with my request
Yeah,
first
that's not a problem.
and Martin's.
Sure.
They're both food bank requests. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Kate Lombardo. I am the Executive Director of the Food Bank of Lower Fairfield County. We are the only food bank located in Lower Fairfield County. Our service area is the 6 towns of Lower Fairfield County, which are comprised of Wilton, Norwalk, New Canaan, Greenwich, Darien, and Stamford. We are requesting $25,000 to help to assist us in meeting the salary of our assistant warehouse store manager. Right now, as an independent food bank, we have as of May 23rd, we have distributed this fiscal year July 1 to May 23rd, as an independent food bank, we have distributed 1.2 million pounds of food at a savings to the overall community of Lower Fairfield County of $3-point-something million. I forget the numbers off the top of my head. But with all the reductions going on, if any agency can save money on food, on their food line item, they can move it to another line item. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to remain here and servicing here. Our warehouse store manager, some of the committee saw them in action today. It is what is it? Organized chaos. Would that be a good, Mr. Collins? Would that be?
It's very fair.
It's constantly food moving in, food moving out. Our agencies do not need an appointment to come in. They do not need to come in once weekly. They're not verboten from coming in once daily. If they need the food is there. And it's to provide the food to the people like Neighbor to Neighbor serves, like the shelter for the homeless. As I pointed out, many people from Greenwich seek services in the town of Stamford. Many of the churches that are out there seek, people get on food bank lines there. Why does that happen? Well, I can tell you from personal experience, having grown up part of my life on welfare, we go out of our area because it's embarrassing, it's shameful, it's horrible when you're not born into poverty and you fall into poverty, and that's what's happening today. People who were once members of the middle class are no longer members of the middle class, and they don't want to be seen at the social services department and talked about among their friends and neighbors. So we are providing services that to Greenwich residents. Additionally, other agencies will step forward and explain that they are also providing services to Greenwich residents. And when we serve them, those agencies, that spans that. So that is our request. We hope that you find our request worthy, and we just hope for funding because it's tight all over, and we know it's tight all over.
Must be done.
Does anyone have questions?
I think we'll take Martin first for the 5-minute.
Pardon?
We'll take Martin's first.
For the 5 minutes? Why? Because he talks longer?
And then we'll ask the
listening.
questions.
I'm going to pass
Because
that
you have a
on.
total of 5 minutes, so we'll just keep going. Yes? 1 minute?
Thank you. I'm Martin Cohen. I'm the Assistant Executive Director of the Food Bank. I'm here to seek funding for the last phase of the repairs to the outside of our building. This is...
If you can use the microphone, thank you.
Better?
Yes.
Yeah, can you
Should-
start over?
Oh,
Just for
gosh.
people.
Oh, no, okay. My name is Martin Cohen. I'm the Assistant Executive Director and the Corporate Secretary at the Food Bank of Lower Fairfield County. We are here to seek funding for the repairs to our fourth wall, the last project. It's fourth phase. This is our building, which 5 years ago, this august body helped us buy. And we have done everything we can to be a good recipient of that funds and maintain the building as best we can. We put in new garage doors, we put in new airtight doors, we put in a new roof, et cetera, et cetera. And now we've been fixing the outside of the building so that it's free from elements coming into the building. As you can see from that my lovely assistant, sounds like television, gave out, this is the last wall. This wall, obviously the rest of the food bank doesn't look like this. This is the wall that faces the railroad tracks, the Metro-North railroad tracks. It's only 10 feet from the tracks, very close to the tracks. The funding for the other three walls have come from Stamford CDBG grants. One wall is done, another wall will be done within a short period of time. The third wall, the funding, the application is pending, and this is the last one. Now, one thing we discussed today with the subcommittee that was there is the price of this wall. The price for the wall that's the opposite side of the building, which faces Glenbrook Road, is about $10,000. This wall is $20,000, plus $6,000 for security. Metro North controls this whole process, because they have the right of way, and we have to get special insurance, which we've applied for, and we've gotten the certificate, but we have to submit that to Metro North. They might not accept it. They might want alterations. We also have to hire a security person, what we would call a flagman or flagwoman. And the person's job is to wave down the train, slow the train up, and stop the construction while it goes on. So while the construction might normally take 2 days, it's going to take at least double that because the process is going to be slowed down all the time.
That's
Okay?
time. Sorry.
Okay.
Thanks. But maybe we'll have questions, so it'll give
Right.
you an opportunity to.
Unless somebody from the committee, did they visit already? Maybe
We already,
They've
Chris, we
been-
already visited.
I didn't know if
We did
you
a
had,
lot-
I'd let the committee go
I
first.
did a
if they had
big deep,
questions.
we did a deep dive, I can fill you.
Okay.
in.
Okay.
Actually, he was the only brave one, Chris, to go in the back where you
No,
went.
I was there before.
I know,
I
but
got-
of
I
the
sent you the
three,
pictures.
he was the only brave one.
This is something that's been going on for a long time. If I recall, 4 years ago, you and I talked about this, and the problem was getting the permission to even do this because it's the right of way.
That's right.
Uh,
You had
now
suggested
have-
someone for us to go to start the process.
But I'm asking, you have the permission now for the right of way.
Yes.
Metro North is part of CONDOT, is it not? The state has, because I remember the permission we got.
I'm
was
turning
through
to
the-
Kate, I don't know where
We
she
got
is.
it through the governor's office to get permission that you could work on this in the first place, so I'm assuming the governor, it's a
right?
state deal.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the state, first of all, this should be brought up with the state cultural arts, first of all.
Chris, do you have a question? Do you have a
Yeah.
specific question?
I want to know is if you have tried through the governor's office to get a waiver on some of this insurance or some of the things through Metro North? Or are they
The paperwork
arm's
that we
length?
received indicated it was not waivable. The insurance, by the way, is not costing us anything.
Okay.
It's our normal insurance.
It's not your-
The Hartford is providing it under our normal policy. It's just a special certificate of
Okay,
insurance.
I'm just wondering if you had exhausted an opportunity, since the state can't give you money because of
Yeah.
the situation, perhaps they could give you easement,
Yeah, well, the state, the gentleman who we finally got to, we went to your person who's left the job, he's no longer there. We got to somebody else who got us to the right person, and the right person came down. And he was so nice. In fact, his daughter had volunteered once at the food bank. So he was like family, and he was very, very helpful.
Thank you. We'll
Chris,
talk
I think we
later.
gotta wind it up here.
I'm sorry?
I think, are you good?
I'm good.
I have one question.
Alan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This wall, beautiful pictures, but I really can't tell. Is it leaking?
Yeah.
No, we wouldn't dare have a wall that's leaking. We've got food inside.
So-
I mean, it has
so
to
what
be
exactly,
secured from food.
Other than remediating the paintings,
No, well-
has to be done to the wall to...
The wall gets, and I'm not a construction worker, but it gets repointed and sealed around, and then it gets, well, first it's sandblasted, I guess, to clear off all then it gets, is that the word, Kate? Repointed? And then it gets sealed, and then they put an elastomeric coating on it to protect it from the elements. And this wall is in bad shape. Again, we've left this one for the last because it's an expensive process. Because, it's going to be taking twice the time than our other walls took.
Great. Thank you very much.
Question.
Oh, yep.
I was just wondering why the flag person is not the responsibility of Metro North.
Metro North told us, you're going to have to hire our flag person for a minute. This is 5 days is what we suggest. If you have to deposit $6,000, and if it's less than the 5 days, they will give us a refund. That's what they told us. Good.
I'm sorry, he's not. Additionally, the workers who are coming on site have to be educated by the Metro North flag people to where to move to and how soon they have to move and move their equipment. So it's not just the flag person, the Metro North will not give up their responsibility to secure that railroad to anybody but a trained professional. I wish they would do it for free, but they won't.
And they can't put a fence up.
Oh, yeah, that's why I was assuming it was Metro North and not you guys that were doing this.
There is a room enough to
and
put up a
they
fence.
won't pay for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pathways is next, please.
Wow, I didn't. I'm Flo Griffin. I'm the Executive Director of Pathways. Thank you for all the help that you've been given to us in the past. We, of course, service only Greenwich residents, and we're the only agency in Greenwich to service people with a severe mental illness, schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression. The funding that we're seeking is $28,834 for a generator for our newly renovated building at 258 Davis Avenue. You gave us $52,000 towards the renovation. It was a $1.5 million project that we successfully completed. And now we're looking for money for an electrical generator. Clients are on medications, strong medications, so when the power goes out, they're greatly affected by temperatures. Plus, we wouldn't want to see them in an emergency situation needing to go to a hotel or something like that. So a generator would be a great help to our clients, and we hope you'll give us the funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone?
Quick question. What do you do now when there's a power outage? I mean, what's been the protocol?
Well, in the past, you've given us, we have 4 residences, and 2 of them have been supplied with electrical generators by the CDBG.
Okay.
So we have those clients go over to those residences, but there's no beds there. It's just much better to have their own. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Flo.
Next, we have Inspirica.
So 3 applications, 9 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, no, 7 minutes. 7 minutes.
Thank you. Madam Chairperson, members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Jason Chaplin. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Inspirica. I'm joined tonight by the entire senior leadership of Inspirica, our Chief Operating Officer, Chief Program Officer for Residential Services, Chief Financial Officer, and Chief Officer of Program Measurement and Performance Measurement and Program Effectiveness. We're also not joined tonight, actually, by someone who would typically be with us, and that's our chair, Patty Roberts, who is now a member of RGM and CDAC, and therefore is on your side of the aisle tonight. But our presence tonight is a sign of how much importance we attach to our proposals and our deep appreciation for your support.
So we have an
past
inside
years.
expert now?
Sorry?
We have an inside expert.
You have an inside expert. We have regretfully ceded her to your side. Inspirica is the largest provider of services to the homeless in Lower Fairfield County. We provide emergency shelter, transitional housing, permanent supportive housing, deeply affordable housing, and rapid rehousing to approximately 300 people each night. Our mission is to break the cycle of homelessness by helping people achieve and maintain permanent housing and stability in their lives. We are one of only a handful, 10 or 15 organizations in the nation that have managed to combine the residential or physical component of homelessness, meaning a roof over people's heads, together with all the support services that address the underlying reasons that cause homelessness on one end-to-end platform. We are also pleased to be the winner of last year's Bank of America Neighborhood Builders Award and this year's winner of the inaugural Impact Fairfield County Award, the prestige award that was awarded this year to not-for-profits just last month here in Greenwich. The need for our services today is sadly greater than ever. While the economy has improved, the effects have not trickled down. Today, 101 million people, 1 out of 3 in this country, live in poverty or within 50% of the poverty line, which is defined as near poverty. From there, they are cascading into homelessness. Greenwich and Stamford has been particularly hard hit, not just spared, but particularly hard hit due to the high cost of living. Our area Our metropolitan area is now the 5th most expensive housing market in the entire nation. While most daily expenses here track a few percentage points above national norms, housing costs are actually an outlier. They track 208% above the national average, and that has resulted in a different kind of homelessness, economic homelessness. While mental illness and substance abuse still plays an outsized role, the soaring cost of living, coupled with wage stagnation and even declining wages, is now a leading cause of soaring homelessness and a record demand for our services. Connecticut is one of just 10 states in the nation that has not yet recovered jobs lost in the recession. We've recovered only 80% of them. As a result of this, while homelessness actually across the state declined slightly last year, because of the cost of living here, our homeless numbers increased last year. Tonight, we humbly request $11,500 to fund approximately 28% of the cost of a life planning coach for our emergency women's shelter. Last year, we requested a greater percentage of funds, but we are cognizant of the many requests that you face and have therefore lowered our request this year as a percentage of the position's overall cost. Inspirica's women's shelter is the only one of its kind in the entire area. Services include 24/7 emergency housing, counseling, 2 meals a day, education and employment assistance, vocational training, and access to a vast array of additional services, including healthcare, psychiatric care, dental care, substance abuse treatment, and much more. The length of the statement of the program is 2 months, and because of that short time, the life coach role plays an particularly important role in shaping and supporting the women during their transition from employment to employment and permanent housing. Our results have been superb. With 1 month still to go in the fiscal year, if you add the last 6 fiscal years together, we have made a record 1,036 job placements and moved a record 878 men, women, and children who had been homeless into permanent housing. In the last fiscal year, we moved 200 people into jobs where they worked an average of 31.5 hours a week at an average starting salary that was 26% above the minimum wage. And I'm pleased to report to you that this fiscal year we are tracking even better in almost all of our categories. Those statistics are important, and I could go on, but let me end by telling you a story about the people we serve. Kim came to Inspirica's women's housing program from a rehab facility. She had been clean for years, but relapsed shortly after her mother's death. It was Kim's first experience living in a shelter, and she didn't know what to expect. The recent events that had occurred in her life had caused her to become depressed. She knew that if she wanted to be involved in her children's life again, she had to get her life back on track and remain sober. Kim enrolled in an outpatient treatment program and began her journey of getting her life back in order. Her passion had always been nursing, and she was determined to get her CNA license reinstated. Kim worked with our employment specialist who provided her with all the study materials and helped her register for the CNA exam. She enrolled in our Jumpstart Career Program, and after being at Inspirica for a month, she gained her CNA license and was able to apply for jobs. She went on countless interviews, but seemed to have no luck. Although she didn't get the job of her choice as a CNA, she did end up getting a job at a local restaurant to get her back on the path. She used her income to the fullest extent possible, and that is to move into her own apartment again. She's ecstatic to be independent again. She continues to work at the restaurant and is back in touch with her family and children. She continues to work at the restaurant, and she continues to stay in touch with Inspirica's retention team. She reports that she's doing well, maintaining her sobriety, and every time we speak with her, she cannot help and cannot stop thanking Inspirica for helping her recover her life. She is just one of hundreds of people we help each year who have similar stories. I thank you very deeply for your past support of this program and this position. I hope you will favorably consider our proposal again. We have 2 more proposals if you would like, Madam Chairperson. I'll continue with them.
Yep.
30
Okay.
seconds.
7 minutes?
That was 7 minutes.
Oh.
Really? Okay. All right. That was very fast. That seemed faster. All right. We seek support for a second operational program this year, and that is a job developer position to help us break our cycle of homelessness. As I mentioned today, the cause of homelessness is increasingly purely economic. Subsidies simply don't exist for all the reasons we've talked about at the state level. The only way you can really get yourself out of homelessness is purely through getting a job. As I mentioned, We've made 200 job placements in the last fiscal year. The starting average wage is $11.54. They work 31.5 hours a week, but that does not happen without an employment program for which you need job developers. Tonight, we seek support for partial payment of a job developer. $10,000 will cover 58% of that position because it actually is an AmeriCorps volunteer, not volunteer, AmeriCorps worker. So we are leveraging both the AmeriCorps dollars and our own money that we will put into that to help fund this position. It is essential that we have an employment program. Without that, you simply cannot break the cycle of homelessness. I have one more proposal, but I honestly cannot believe that was 7 minutes. I'm sorry.
The story was long.
We timed it. It was like.
Did we talk about the elevator?
Nope, we have an elevator proposal. Can I present the elevator proposal very quickly?
Very briefly.
All right.
Yeah.
Our biggest proposal this year is our capital project. We typically have 2 capital projects for you. This year we're submitting just one. It is for an elevator at our Franklin Common facility. Franklin Common is our center for families and children. It is home not just to Inspirica's family program, emergency shelter and transitional housing, but also 10 other programs, not-for-profits, that also reside in the building. It sees well over 100,000 visitors a year. The elevator is absolutely essential. It's broken. It will make us continue to allow us to be ADA compliant. Many of our clients have disabilities. They are severely hampered. They cannot use the elevator to get up to the top floors when it's broken. We have spent in the last 5 years just shy of $35,000 just maintaining them and fixing them with basic repairs. That means our $80,000 request for a $128,500 project will pay itself back in terms of your contribution if you fund this within just 2 years, just shy of just over 2 years, a very high ROI, 100% in just over 2 years. It will also leverage our own funding of $48,500. The program serves 45 families at one time, mothers often who have disabilities. At a minimum, they always have children. It is absolutely essential that the elevator be in working order, and we have simply been patching it and patching it and patching it and patching it at a ridiculous cost. As I said, $40,000 in the last several years. If we don't do this, it's just going to be worse and worse and worse. The project's $128,500, but we seek $80,000. We will leverage. It will leverage the rest of our dollars. I'm sorry for taking so long.
Thank you. Ellen has a question.
How many floors are in that building with the elevator?
There are 2 elevators in the building. We hope to do them both over the next 2 years from different sources and our own funding. This elevator serves 4 floors.
And where are the residential apartments?
In this elevator serves the residential apartments.
Okay, and do you have residences on all 4 floors, or?
We have residents on the top 2 floors, the 3rd and 4th
So
floor.
no matter what, somebody would have to travel upstairs to get back to their place?
Absolutely. The residences are only on the 3rd and 4th floor. The other elevator serves floors 1 and 2. This elevator, which is in a segregated portion of the building just for residential services, serves all 4 floors.
But the
Obviously,
residences
principally 3 and 4.
upstairs, there are no residences on the main floor?
No.
On the second?
They must have an elevator.
Absolutely.
And that is why we have been literally paying through the nose to just keep it patched, to keep it going. And at this point, it is obviously a much cheaper and more efficient solution to simply replace it.
If the elevator broke down, you'd be closed.
All I wanted to do was show that the need is for people to get back to their room.
If the elevator-
Yes.
Can't get back to their room
They cannot get
without
back
an
to their room without the elevator. I mean,
the
there are
elevator-
stairs, but if you need an elevator, you can't get back to your room.
If the elevator closed down, the residential area, in fact, would be closed, for all practical purposes.
For those who have disabilities, it causes, obviously, we have to figure out ways to get them upstairs and downstairs until we can get it emergency repaired, which is a matter of hours, but it's a huge inconvenience.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is the Old Greenwich OGRCC.
Thank you. We good?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ingrid Nguyen. I'm the Executive Director of the OGRCC, the Old Greenwich Riverside Community Centre. Thank you for giving me the chance to represent my organisation in requesting additional funding for our after-school childcare program. The OGRCC is a non-profit community organisation which receives no additional funding from the Town of Greenwich or the state. We rely on private sponsorship, annual fundraisers, as well as program fees to fund our programs. Currently, we run childcare programs at 3 public elementary schools in Greenwich. We offer scholarships to families in need of financial aid. The scholarships allocated last year amounted to a total of $35,000. We are requesting just under half of that amount for our program in order to continue to be able to offer this much-needed assistance to single parents and working parent families. Any questions?
Question. This is for scholarships, so, and this is for the before and after for people who don't have the means, generally means that if there's either a single mother or both parents are working, if they can't go to your care.
Correct.
What happens?
Well, I think they do. There is a Boys and Girls Club that will pick up some of the children, and I understand that the YW, but I do know that some of their programs as well.
I'm just saying, would that mean that the parents can't work?
Yes.
What's your criteria for scholarships?
It's income-based, so it's depending on the range of income, and annual income can range from $10,000, as you know, maximum of $75,000. Anything above $75,000, there no scholarships are awarded.
How many children are you servicing?
A total of about 100 children in program in total, but most of our children are in North Miami School and ISD. We have a small, about 20 children at Old Greenwich School.
Is your school limited to children
We have
in that area, or would you serve the whole town?
No, it's limited to the children that go to the school only, and that's only because of transportation. We haven't had the means to purchase any transport services. Thank you.
Thank you. Friends of Laurel House?
Oh, pictures. Nice picture.
Good evening. I'm Linda Autori, President and CEO of Laurel House. Thank you so much for honoring our request this evening. Consideration of up to $25,000 towards a truck for Laurel House thrift store called Treasure Hunters. Thank you in the past, too, for your generosity. We received multiple awards up through plan year 14. And in fact, that last award that we received in that year gave us committed funds that we were able to parlay into a $125,000 grant from the state to complete all the rest of our bathrooms that you helped us start. So thank you. Just briefly, I'd like to explain how Treasure Hunters fits into Laurel House. It's not just a store. It's a key element of 3 of our core rehabilitative programs. Last year, Laurel House helped 729 individuals and 150 families achieve and sustain mental health recovery, improve quality of life, greater self-sufficiency, and engagement in the local communities. And we cover 8 towns of Lower Fairfield County. Our programs are available at no charge to low-income individuals with serious mental illness. 64% of our funding this last year was public, 36% private. So we very aggressively started moving to private, starting about a little over 5 years ago when I joined Laurel House, at which time 85% of our funding was public. So we definitely have been headed in that direction. 20% of our clients are Greenwich residents, but a higher percentage are in housing and in education, supported education program, 30% and 27% respectively. We provide integrated evidence-based core programs such as supported employment, supported education, supported housing, cognitive remediation, many of these programs that do not exist even with other mental health focused agencies such as Pathways. So we do collaborate with them, we make our programs available to them. And of course, psychosocial rehabilitation. That's where the thrift store fits in. So there are 3 key programs that are affected by this Treasure Hunters thrift store: psychosocial rehabilitation, housing, and supported employment. The store itself is a non-judgmental vocational learning environment under the supervision of staff and community volunteers who are not paid. The individuals learn social skills and engagement skills. most of these individuals who we work with in the store are not quite ready for employment, for competitive employment. When they are, we move them to supported employment. It is also an opportunity for supported education and supported employment clients to get their free first job interview set of clothing, and we completely furnish our chronically homeless housing. So when someone comes from a shelter, referred from Inspirica, from Shelter for the Homeless, that client would receive a full outfitting of furniture. And then finally, it's an opportunity for the resale of donated goods, and that's how we cover the cost of this operation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Ellen, yep.
Do you currently have a truck?
We do, and it's 14 years old, and it has 112,000 miles on it. And we pray every day that it keeps lasting.
And last year, how much maintenance did you put in that truck?
In the last, I'm going to say since, it's I apologize, it's in the application. We put in around $16,000 in roughly the last 2 years, $25,000 in the last 4 years. So we've essentially paid for it again. The purchase price would be roughly $40,000. We've already set $15,000 aside from our annual appeal for the truck.
Thank you.
Great.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Family centers, and they have 3 applications, so 7 minutes on the clock.
But the good news is we have 2 people, so
Okay.
we can actually make this very efficient. Hello, my name is Megan Sweeney, and I'm the director of the Early Care and Education Program. I'll talk about the Gateway Preschool Program, and I'll also talk about Armstrong Court Preschools.
My name is Caroline Walcott. I'm the director. My name is Caroline Walcott. Good evening. I'm the director of self-sufficiency and independent living at Family Centres, and I'm going to talk about the RIGHT program.
So first off, thank you very much for your continued and ongoing support of our programs at Family Centers. We really appreciate it, and we couldn't really operate the programs we do without the ongoing support of so many community partners, so thank you. First off, Bob Short is not able to be here because his son is graduating, so his apologies. He would ordinarily be here talking to you about the Gateway Preschool, but it's fine because I'm the director of the program, so I think I can be able to talk to you about it. We are requesting $29,750 for the replacement of playground surfacing at our Gateway Preschool, which is over on the Greenwich-Portchester border, over by Western Junior Highway. There's a white church. Well, it looks like a church. I always call it that because people don't realize it's actually a preschool. But we serve about 58 children there. Of those 58 children, a good portion of them receive some level of scholarship, and about 60% of them, about 55% of them, I believe, meet the income eligible requirements for the CDBG funding. And what's happened is we have 16-year-old playground surfacing. It's a rubber surfacing, and it's required for both state licensing and for our NAEYC, which is the National Association for the Education of Young Children, accreditation for it to meet safety standards. It's 16 years old, it's cracking when licensing comes out, and when we have playground inspections, they say you've got to have that removed and you've got to replace it. So that's why we're seeking funding for that. Armstrong Court Preschools is a program that you have supported on an ongoing basis. That is for the very lowest income families living in town with 3- and 4-year-old children. These are families who are living at or below the federal poverty level, which is about $20,185, I think, for a family of 3, which is hard anywhere in the country, but I think we can all agree that, especially in a town like Greenwich, that is especially hard to do. And we're able to offer a full day, full year, 50-week-a-year program for children who are income eligible for that program, in addition to family supports, which Caroline will talk about, for those children. And so we are seeking $15,000 worth of funding to support this program that actually has a $1.148 budget, total operating budget, to serve the 64 children who are enrolled in that program. I'm going to let Caroline talk a little bit about the family supports that we offer, because I think we all understand the importance of preschool in this day and age, and so I think you all understand why it's important to have access for these very lowest income children to help them to be ready for kindergarten and to reduce the achievement gap. But I'll let Caroline talk about how we also help the families at this site.
Good evening.
Just to echo what Megan had said, we thank you for your continued support. Sorry, we thank you for your not used to speaking to a microphone. Thank you for your continued support, and our application this evening is for $10,000 to support a program coordinator position. So I'm going to talk just a little about the RIGHT program. The RIGHT program has been providing comprehensive vocational support services to low-income families in Greenwich for over 19 years. And that's through our RIGHT program, which is Reaching Independence Through Employment. And as Megan said, we offer support to the families, individuals and families who utilise the services of our daycare centres. Some of that support includes comprehensive assessment of some of the barriers to employment. Many of our individuals that come to our program, they're seeking employment from then underemployed, or they're seeking new employment. So some of the services that we offer, we provide them with a comprehensive assessment that looks at some of the barriers that might prevent them from gaining employment. So that could be childcare, that could be they don't have a resume, they might need some resume assistance. That could be some life skills that they need assistance with, some interview skills, and our program coordinator assists them with those barriers that might help them to move to the next stage. Our focus is also on self-sufficiency. It's important that the individuals understand that increasing your employment can help with your self-sufficiency and also assist you in terms of making a better life for your family. So our program coordinators offer a wraparound service. We have many services that are available to individuals throughout our family centres organisation. So it's not just about the RIGHT program, we also refer individuals to other services within the program, and that could include counselling, that could include our young parents program, but our RIGHT program just offers a holistic range of services to individuals and families.
Thank you. No questions?
No.
Wow. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greenwich Historical Society? Oh, great.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Mecki, and I'm the Executive Director of the Greenwich Historical Society. And our application is for Phase 2 of our project to provide an elevator that will enable universal public access to the entire site and programs of the Greenwich Historical Society. And that includes the Bush Holly House, which is an assured experience for every third grader in Greenwich, and is also free to the 380 students in the Hamilton Avenue School with whom we have a museum school partnership. They are a Title I school. It provides access to the Education Center, which is in our barn, where we hold the lectures, after-school programs, and summer camp. It provides universal access to all of the staff offices, and it provides access because it's located in a new consolidated archives and exhibitions building. So through one elevator, we are able to completely transform the experience of our site. Some of you may know we were founded in 1931. We were one room in the Perrott Memorial Library. We moved to the Bush Holly site in Cos Cob in 1957. And so this is really the first, and we've gradually, of course, expanded the site by acquiring the buildings, neighboring historic buildings, the storehouse, and the building we know as Toby's Tavern. The site is about 2.2 acres, and the entire site, including the grounds, are used for our outdoor programs. Last year, we received a grant of $25,000 towards this elevator, just the equipment itself, which is about $200,000. We have not received that funding yet. We hear we will maybe see it this fall. But by that time, we expect to have our building permit in place, and we'll be going into the construction phase, which is about a little over a year. So we feel that the timing here works for us very well. If we can receive the Phase 2 funding of $25,000, we then pay for $50,000, or about 25% of just the cost of the elevator itself, which, as you know, can see the project itself is quite large, requiring the new construction and restoration of our current buildings and site. Any questions?
That was, the last grant was a block grant?
Yes.
25 last year?
Yes.
For this year.
the upcoming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a question down there. Yep.
So how many stories are there at this site?
So what happens is that when you stand at street level, it's a 30-foot high climb from where you park right now up to where the first floor of Bush Holly House is. And so there are no buildings on our site that are more than 2 stories high. But in order to get from that street level up to the 30-foot high level, you first have to, we're doubling the parking lot at a higher level. So you drive up 10 feet from where you are currently on the street. You're now at that midpoint level. From there, you have grade level access into this new building in which the elevator is. And when you take that elevator up to its second floor, you now are at the 30-foot high site, which allows you then to walk out, or wheelchair access actually, right out to the Bush Holly House, the education center. So it is, that's our challenge of this particular site, is it's, you know.
That gives you full access to the whole interior.
It's the entire site. The one elevator really is just instrumental, and it's transformational really for the site. It really does, for the first time, make it publicly accessible, universally accessible.
Oh, Sam. I'm sorry, but I was just wondering, could this not be in the capital town budget, the elevator?
No, we are we're a private nonprofit organization. We receive no funding from the town of Greenwich. So we are raising the support privately, and I should add that we have a challenge grant, so that each dollar that we raise, we receive another $1 in return. So the $50,000 becomes $100,000 to us. Yes, we're allowed to use any source of funding that we are able to raise. So it's.
So we double our hit.
Yes, you do.
Thank you very much.
Can I just ask one question? How large is this overall project? How much are you raising for?
Altogether, well, we've wrapped in, the construction part of the project is $11.8 million. The new construction building is $7.7 million. The restoration of the buildings, particularly, for example, the one where we're putting the stairs in and reconverting it as offices, is $2.2 million. The landscaping and parking is $1.9 million. So it's a large project. And then we're also raising money for programs, to fund the programs, and, you know, increase our operating costs will be higher. So we're trying to account for that as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Greenwich Housing Authority with 2 programs, so 5 minutes in total.
Good evening. Thanks for having me here this evening. My name is Anthony Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of the Greenwich Housing Authority. Let me first off say that we appreciate all the support that we received over the years for all the capital improvements that we've done at the Housing Authority. And some of our properties, without your support, definitely would not have been improved and would continue to deteriorate. This property, McKinney Terrace, is a state property, part of our state portfolio. What that means is that we took a loan out from the state of Connecticut to build these units. That loan on McKinney Terrace 1 and 2 still exists. We're in the process of repaying that loan. Therefore, the reserves for these properties are 0 or low, very low. And the reason that is that we continue to try to keep the rents as low as possible. McKinney Terrace 1 and 2, one is a senior building with 50 units of senior housing in it. The other building is a family building consisting of 2 and 3 bedroom units that have an average rent of about $500 a month. The property itself, actually, the entire site for McKinney 1 and 2 is actually owned by the town of Greenwich. It's leased to the Housing Authority under a 99-year operating lease, where the Housing Authority controls the site for that period of time, and therefore, capital-wise, we actually own it for all intents and purposes for that period of time. The road, that includes the road that leads through McKinney Terrace. And that's what I'm here to speak to you about tonight. There's 2 things that we want to talk about. One is the road, which leads into McKinney Terrace. It's a very long road. If you've not driven it, you need to drive through it. It's not only servicing our properties there, but also services people park there as well to go to Dorothy Hamill skating rink and to wander through the woods there. So it's used by other people other than the Housing Authority. So that's one of the things I want to consider. The road itself also is dangerous because of the potholes that exist there. We've done patching, cold patching, but cold patching at this point does not hold due to the damage of the site over the long term, and therefore it has to be replaced. With that, for the McKinney Terrace Road, the Housing Authority is requesting $211,000 to completely repave that road, which means that we will restore the road by removing the top surface, going down to the gravel surface, replacing the gravel as well, or recompacting the gravel and going back over it with top pavement. In addition to that, we're asking for, this is something we've been here before on, and that's McKinney Terrace 1, which is 21 units of family housing. Again, that property has no reserves. We continue to keep the properties very low. We can earn reserves there if we were to increase the rents, but the average rent there is approximately little over $1,000 a month for the family units there. No, the family housing.
McKinney 1?
Yeah. So with that, we've been here, we've passed on it over the years as you've asked us to prioritize what we would like to do at our properties, and I think it's reached a point now where it's very difficult to pass on the condition of it. It's deteriorating, and the deterioration of the faucet and fascia, as you can see from the photos, and I think from the report that you received from your individual came out to visit us at our site, demonstrates the need for this. And again, you're housing working families. McKinney Terrace and McKinney Terrace 1 is not considered what you would say low income, as Quarry Knoll would be, and as Wilbur Peck would be. These are working families, or have been working families, or continue to work, and in the senior buildings, retired people who have lived and worked in town of Greenwich throughout their lives. In most cases, they've gone through our entire portfolio, starting out in family housing and then ending up in senior housing. So with that, we would appreciate your support, your continued support on our projects, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Yes, thank you, Tony. If I'm not mistaken, this goes back to when Nancy Johnson helped convert that school into senior housing. That road then, from that's 30 years back. I don't think that road's ever been touched since then, has it?
It's been touched only from the standpoint.
I mean, as far as a major redoing.
Of major resurfacing, no, it has not.
So this is a very old, beat-up road that you patched and patched and patched.
Yes, we actually had it in a plan, Chris, some time ago when we were trying to do some additional units at McKinney, and it was part of the project to resurface the road at that time.
And I understand that the Lions House, the Greenwich Preservation Trust, as an initiative to move the Lions House up there behind Kinney Terrace, so that driveway would be also used for that.
That's also my understanding as well.
As well as the other public facilities around.
As well as public facilities, right.
So it's not just a road for the residents?
Oh, no, it's not by far. As I stated, people park there for baseball games. They park there for the skating rink as well.
It's a regular access road as well.
It is a regular access road. Even though it's part of the site, it's not a private road.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just had
Yeah, Bill.
a quick question. You mentioned a mortgage earlier. How much mortgage do you have left on the facility of what you began with and what you have? Interest rates are low, so I'm just wondering, like, relative to just putting a perspective, this is a big number.
Yeah.
Why not get a mortgage for something, you roll it over into a larger, just give me a sense as to the dollars in terms of what you borrowed originally and you had a mortgage you paid.
What we
something
borrowed
back,
originally was approximately $5 million.
And what are you down to now?
A little over $1 million. And the difference, though, and you've never borrowed money from the state or from the federal government, they don't refinance. So
Yeah,
it's
but
very difficult. No.
If you finance this at all, there's no opportunity to finance this type of work?
No, they won't let you refinance. They sort of
to
have.
finance it, not refinance. You can't just straight out finance.
Well, you can't finance it because it doesn't generate enough cash flow to be able to refinance the surface. We do this all the time at some of our other properties where we actually utilize the cash flow from the site to be able to do improvements.
I was just curious, because I was going to say, if you're talking about 400 grand, you know, low interest rate, and you're talking about passing on a $5 a month increase to people to pay for it, perhaps, it's not a lot of money.
Well,
If you really divvy it up amongst the number of people, divided by the cost and interest on a mortgage for $400,000, it's nothing.
Well, it's a couple of things. First of all, the state won't let you take out another mortgage on the property that they already have a mortgage on, so that won't happen. In addition to that, we've refinanced other buildings where we don't have government financing involved to lower rates. Matter of fact, I actually sent a letter today based on another property where we're paying 8% interest on the property, and it was 8% at the time, and we have the cash in a reserve that's only for that building that we would love to pay off the mortgage. And on this particular mortgage, it's only $400,000, and the reserve is $900,000. They're not going to let me do it, but I'm going to try. So
You don't have any reserve here?
there are no reserves. So the choice here is to increase the rents. The other thing, for example, these properties are part of what we call pilot payment. So a pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes that had been funded by the state of Connecticut. That's something that may come back, that may be an additional cost, depends on what the town does, in terms of passing that on to the residents, because the state is no longer funding the pilot.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice paint job, Tony.
Next, we have Abilis.
Wasn't that the one that's rotting through? Water getting in?
Good evening. My name is Dennis Perry. I'm the CEO of the Abilis organization here in Greenwich, and I want to echo what many have said earlier this evening. Organizations like Abilis could not do all that it's done if it were not for the support of this committee over the years. It's been a significant contributor to what Abilis has been able to accomplish. As you may know about Abilis, it's an organization that was founded in Greenwich in 1951. It was formed by a group of very concerned families, and it was intended to provide a community-based life for individuals with developmental disabilities. This year marks our 65th year. What began as a small operation supporting a handful of people has evolved to an organization that today directly supports 700 individuals in any given year from birth literally through life. And it's done through a series of services that cross two very fundamental supports. One is therapeutic services, and the second are life services. To just give you some sense of those services, which puts in context what we're asking for today, the services that we provide are therapeutic services. We have a birth to 3 program that is funded by the state, and it supports individuals between the age of birth to 3. What we've extended is that same therapeutic services on a private basis to families who've determined that they would like to have consistency in the support that they provide therapeutically to their kids, or to new who have not had the opportunity to work with Abilis, but have determined that they like our approach to providing therapy, which is in community as opposed to in center. Both of those opportunities continue to allow us to provide therapeutic supports as long as they are needed by the families we support, as opposed to up until the age of 3, which is defined by the state. In addition to therapeutic services, we also offer life services. Life services begins largely with the individuals who are graduating from high school, and they're looking to enter adulthood, and they are looking to us to help them as they make that transition. We do so through our Life Skills program. Life Skills is operated out of the Presbyterian Church at the top of the avenue, and supports on any given day about 30 individuals. In addition to life services, we also support those that we support with employment. A lot of the folks that we are able to take care of on a daily basis are individuals who are competitively employable. And our goal is to get as many people into the community, into competitive jobs as is possible. What we've done is we have found that not everybody has the skill set necessary to be in the community as quickly as possible, so we allow them to work in our businesses. And our businesses give them an open door to a number of activities. The point that I'm trying to make here is that our population has expanded, our services have grown, our staff has increased, and we operate everything we do in large part out of the facility that we operate in Glenville. It's our parking lot. We have 44 spaces in that parking lot. We have 79 people who we serve on a daily basis, and we have 65 staff who are in that area. We are overcrowded, and we are at risk of causing harm to the people we serve as a consequence of the condition of the parking lot. I'll make one last comment, and I know I've just heard the bell, and before I get the hook, I have to tell you, that the motivation behind this proposal is that on February 24th, there was a young lady who was in our facility who walked out the door unescorted because she was trying to reach her mother's car. Because of the overcrowding condition that we have in our parking lot, which needs to expand, that young lady was hit. She was knocked over. Fortunately, because of the routine that we have of people that are guarding the parking lot, that did not turn into something more severe. As a result, we have changed our complete routine of how we monitor people coming and going within the facility during the peak of our day. And I have to tell you, we have changed our protocols significantly to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But we need your help. I need a bigger parking lot. It was sized to fit X, and it needs to fit Y. And with the proposal that we have in place, hopefully you can help us do that. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Chris?
So if I understand this correctly, it's not to replace the parking lot you have now, it's to add to the parking lot you have now and increase the parking lot space?
It's both of those things. The existing parking lot is 15,000 square feet. The expansion would be a 50% increase to that, so
Yeah.
think of 22,000 square feet.
I understand, but is the present parking lot sound?
The present parking lot was reconfigured through the help of the block grant because it needed to have new drainage in order to accommodate the
That's what I
expansion.
understood.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
So in the consequence of doing that, the thing is as uneven as you can possibly imagine. So it needs to be resurfaced. The whole thing needs to be redone.
So you want to tear up the whole parking lot, resurface
For
it?
$64,000,
Start
the
fresh.
objective is to start fresh, completely redo it, make it level so that people that we're supporting who are unsteady on their feet or who are in wheelchairs are able to navigate the space without risk of harm. So it would be the entire parking lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Domus Kids?
Hello, my name is Erica Newton, and I would also, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so forth, thank you guys for always, the willingness to always help these different organizations, but us in particular. I'm the program director at one of our past group homes that is owned and operated by the Department of Children and Families. And as you know from past stories, state budget cuts, we have been cut tremendously. The young men that we work with in our programs age in the range from 14 to age 19, but now we're seeing a lot more men come to us, young men, I should say, in our program up into age 23. A lot of that is because of their backgrounds. A lot of kids that come to us have traumatic backgrounds. They've been removed from their homes and placed under the care of DCF because of abuse, neglect. They are transitioning out of incarceration and back into the community. We have kids that come from Kids in Crisis, and we have kids that come from all different walks of life. We are the only past group home in the Fairfield County area, which serves Greenwich to Bridgeport. Some of the things that we do with our young men are teaching them life skills, getting them job readiness, and so forth. We are respectively requesting $9,200 to rebuild a shed that was on our property when we purchased it. It's now rotten on one side of the shed. The primary reason we want to do that is because we've begun to we had a great volunteer that came in and built a wonderful garden for us, a fresh garden so that our young men can use those materials to cook daily meals and prepare daily meals so that when they leave us, they're able to go out and into the community and have their own apartment and know what fresh food is and prepare those things. But the shed would help us store those materials so that, you know, they're in safekeeping. You know, we don't want anybody to come in and, you know, take whatever materials we have because those materials are very important to us. Domus serves over 1,000 children yearly. We've expanded our programs. We have 2 past group homes. We also have a after-school program that serves many young children throughout the Stamford and Greenwich area.
Thank you.
Question.
Oh, Beth has a question.
I just have a quick question. With the garden, do you teach these young men how to work in the garden?
Yes, we actually have a volunteer project next week where the young men will be working with some volunteers to come in and actually do the planting and so forth. And they actually use whatever fresh materials grow from there, they use. They love the peppers, the onions, the cabbage, whatever grows, they use in preparing their meals daily.
This shed, is this in the south end?
No, it's not in the south
Where
end.
is it?
This is on the Newfield Avenue property across from Trinity Catholic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Shelter for the Homeless, and they have 2 applications, so we give them 5 minutes.
Go for it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jerome Roberts. I'm with Shelter for the Homeless, and I guess you've heard this a number of times, but I shall repeat it. We thank you for your previous support of our agency and our cause. I'm here, like everybody else in the room, begging for money, but we think that we are a worthy cause, and hopefully I can convince you of that. Shelter for the Homeless is the only regional shelter. We serve the 4 towns of Stamford, Greenwich, Darien, and New Canaan. We serve men in our emergency shelter, but we have a day drop-in center that serves men and women. On an annual basis, we serve about 600 unduplicated individuals per year. Our first application is for our emergency food program. Through the emergency shelter, we served 400 individuals last year. Each individual that stays in our overnight emergency shelter is entitled to 2 meals. The first meal would be our breakfast, which is usually donated goods or things that we can attain from the food bank, which I want to say without the food bank, we really would not be able to fulfill our emergency meal program. But that aside, in addition to breakfast, which is usually baked goods, cold cereal, and the like, we serve a hot meal. And our hot meal is consisted of a dietary nutritional balance of, which is going to seem high, but I'm going to tell you, it's 4 ounces of meat, it's 12 ounces of vegetable, and 12 ounces of a starch. And the reason it's that high is because we asked the dietitian, if our men only had 1 meal a day, what would that look like? And they came back with this recommendation, and we've adhered to that. That makes our cost that much higher. So we're asking for $25,000 for our emergency meal program, mostly for the dinner meal. I'll go on to our second application. We're seeking funding to replace the beds and mattresses in our dorms at the emergency shelter. We are requesting $61,171 to purchase 24 single beds and 33 bunk beds, 82 mattresses, 24 3-drawer chests, and 24 nightstands for our emergency shelter program. Due to the shortage of housing in this area, we have expanded the program to 90 beds. In addition to the 90, the shelter accommodates 12 recovery programs and 12 transitional living beds, totaling 24 beds that will give our clients housing for 6 months or more. The goal is to move the clients from dependence to independence. By having our clients move from emergency situation to a more stable environment, they will be able to concentrate on finding longer-term, more stable housing and be able to develop critical supports necessary for success. Our clients are increasingly being priced out of housing due to the shortage of affordable and living wage jobs in this area for them. Lower Fairfield County is the highest rental market in the tri-state area. Our plans are to purchase and replace emergency shelter beds at Pacific House. And just to give you an idea of cost, a person would have to work more than 80 hours a week at minimum age to afford a modest 1-bedroom unit in our area. You know, I heard Tony was talking about the project that he has here in Greenwich, and the elders pay $1,000 a month for an apartment. Well, it's $968 for an SRO, which is a single room in our area. For a efficiency, it's $1,291. For a 1-bedroom, it's $1,505. These are the latest numbers that are out this month. So the FMR in our area is astoundingly high. We're asking to replace our beds.
FMR?
Fair market rate, thank you. We're asking to replace our beds, which are 26 years old. They're as old as the shelter. If you look at it, over a year for a bunk bed, we paid $21 a year. It's 26. For a single bed, we're asking it's $9 over the 26 years. So the cost is high, but the longevity of the program and the return on investment is great. The final thing that I want to say is this here. If one of the things that we looked at in buying these beds is that we were moving from a metal frame to a metal frame. I'm sure you've heard about the bed bug epidemic. Well, it's real, and it's very real. The one thing that we don't have as a choice is deciding who comes into our shelter. Anybody is eligible as long as they're 18 years old, and we have to serve them. So we've had bed bugs, and we need, we looked at wood casings, and they are much cheaper, and we could get a much cheaper bed, but that just wasn't work for us. It won't work for a commercial appliance, and that's what we are. We are a commercial appliance here. We need the stronger beds, and we need them to be metal frames. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan has a question.
Are you also looking to purchase mattress covers along with that?
Absolutely. One of the things that we have to do, as a matter of fact now, because of the health department, actually two, one is Stanford and the other is Greenwich, is they come in and they inspect our facility. And they kind of make sure, one, we can't have cloth-covered mattresses, so they're vinyl. So that also increases our cost. The second thing is that we have, in addition to those, we have to put on these bed bug resistant covers, so that if we do have a case where we've had bed bugs, it becomes easier to manage just by throwing away the cover.
Thank you. Oh, wait, we have one more question.
So what do men do for lunch if you have the breakfast and the huge?
So, New Covenant Soup Kitchen, which is, we close from 12 to 1, I'm sorry. We close from 12 to 1, and that's so that we can clean our day room, our drop-in center. And so the men or the women, because the drop-in is for men and women, would go to New Covenant for lunch.
So,
Question.
Yes.
is this request to replace all of the beds? I don't.
Is it to replace all? No, no. We have 67 as a static, but we've been serving a higher number. We have 82 beds now. We've been approved for 82 beds, but we can accommodate up to 110. We're only asking for 33 bunks, which is 66 in the bunks, and 24 singles, which would be about 90.
Thank you.
So Jerome?
Yes.
If you amortize these beds over 26 years, the new ones, what does that cost per year?
The cost for year amortized would actually be about $5.
Well, yeah, okay, so we're just worrying about your mortgage. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
okay, exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's a capital expense as opposed to, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I knew you were.
And we have TAG next. Here, Paul, pass. Thank you.
Hey, Jeff.
Good evening, everyone. I don't look back fondly on my time on your board. I served, I think, 12 years and 3 or 4 as the chairman, so I know the tough decisions you're going to be facing in the next couple of weeks. It's one of the reasons that TAG, when we come to you for applications...
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, I'm Jim Buttel. I'm the executive director of TAG. One of the reasons we do not come to you every year is we consciously take 1 year off, try to take 1 year off out of every 3, because these grant dollars are shrinking. We have currently, not counting the 4 large commuter shuttle buses, we have 18 vehicles in our fleet. That's what the top sheet is. Just very quickly, you'd see Cardinal has 127,000 miles, Eagle with 122,000, Indiana with 125,000, Patriot with 169,000, and Roundabout with 117. Those are the vehicles that are set to be replaced over the next 18 months. I gave you the last 2 new vehicles that were acquired. I gave you the quote on a 20-passenger bus and a quote, I believe it's an 8+2 passenger bus, one being $45,000, one being $65,000. We added minivans to our fleet a couple of years ago. It's actually more than a couple of years ago now, that are handicapped accessible minivans. We're actually finding those are too small for our needs now. So we're kind of looking at something new, which there are no more Econoline vans. They are now the European style vans that are all coming in. Those came in as commercial vehicles first. They're now coming out as passenger vans. So with the timing of this grant, obviously the RTM doesn't vote on it till September. The funds don't become available until April, May at the earliest next year. You will probably see 2 or 3 of the vehicles that I highlighted replaced already. So what exactly we buy is dependent on the timing of the grant, but the average cost of the handicap modification to a vehicle is between $18,000 and $22,000.
Conversion on top of it.
That would be the conversion on top of the cost of buying a vehicle. The final point I would make was as you go down the list, I used to say when I was the chairman, let's round up the usual suspects. Those coming in for grants, as you go down through your list of grant requesters tonight, there's at least 8 agencies on that list that TAG serves. So when you're funding a vehicle for TAG, you're helping Abolish, you're helping Greenwich Adult Daycare, you're helping Neighbor to Neighbor, YMCA, YWCA. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but we service almost every nonprofit in town.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Jim, I have one question.
Yes.
So you're proposing getting a Eurovan, am I correct?
If you depending on the timing, it would probably be a. It's not going to be a Mercedes Sprinter. It's going to probably be a Ford Transit or a Ram. I'm trying to think what the Ram product is.
Really, my question is, how many people could fit into it?
It depends on if you go to the 158-foot extended length, the thing that's going to be different in these is if we do that, it's going to be a rear entry wheelchair. So rather than a side ramp, it's going to be rear entry for 2. But you can spec those out to as much as 16 plus 2. So 16 seated, that includes a driver, and 2 wheelchair. More than likely what I'm going to be looking for is speccing one out that's 12 passenger and 2 wheelchair. And so I would estimate the cost is going to be around $55,000 to $60,000.
Yes, Jim, good to have you back. If my understanding, it's one thing that you get a lot of use on your vehicles, but since I think the Red Cross dropped out, a number of other agencies have kind of dropped out of servicing, consistently over the last couple of years, more and more burden's been tossed onto TAG, am I correct?
Yeah, we've grown.
It's not just your regular service.
We've grown from doing, in the last 5 years, from about 52,000 trips a year to this year, we're on track to do 75,000 passenger trips with 95% of
And this is not because
being Greenwich
of,
residents.
not a growth in your base business, but this is because other services,
No, but
service
it's also
providers
growth.
have
There's been
switched
a
over.
conscious effort by a number of agencies to get their clients Easy Access certified. The Easy Access program is because we have a fixed route bus system that runs through Greenwich. If you're physically or mentally incapable of riding the fixed route bus system, you get certified, then your trip has to be within 3/4 of a mile of the fixed route bus line. So almost all of our senior housing, with the exception of McKinney that was discussed earlier, is within 3/4 of a mile of the fixed route bus line. So there's been a real effort to get Corey Knoll, Agnes Morley, the Muse, all certified for
To
easy
go
access.
to use you guys or use the public transport?
To use TAG.
TAG. So this is what I'm saying. This is a huge shift.
Right.
Thank you.
Jim? Quick question.
Yes, Alan, who is a, I'm not going to say frequent, but a regular customer.
Exactly. But the question I have is, can you explain to the committee why the MV1 and the smaller products are not working and why you have to look at a bigger product?
Well, we will still keep, the MV1 was an experiment. It was a vehicle that would, and I have to say my driver loves it. I think you've probably ridden in it, and you love it.
Yes.
It was a whereas you take a minivan and you modify it, this was a product that was designed from the ground up with tubular construction strictly to be a handicapped accessible minivan. So you're not modifying an existing vehicle. Unfortunately, politics got involved, the company went under, then somebody else acquired it. My driver who drives it every day loves that vehicle. The passengers who ride in it love that vehicle. One of the things that's unique about that vehicle is there is no front passenger seat. So one of the wheelchair positions is sitting as the front passenger. You don't feel like cargo, which is extremely unique. The other thing is our vehicles, the buses, specifically the dual rear wheel buses, so any E450 is prohibited from the Merritt Parkway. If you need to service this direction in Greenwich, that limits you to the Post Road and I-95. So I added minivans to the fleet specifically so we could use the Merritt Parkway. When we're taking clients to Avalos and Glenville, many of whom are coming from North Stamford, imagine having to do that without using the Merritt Parkway. Depending on the size of the vehicle, it would be a single axle rear, two-wheel rear vehicle. It would be allowed to use the Merritt Parkway. That's one of the reasons I suspect, again, with a fleet of 18 vehicles, I need to replace 3 or 4 vehicles a year. So for me to tell you exactly which vehicle I'm going to replace in 18 months, I can't be specific. I can be specific in simply saying it will be a handicapped accessible vehicle. About 70% of our clients are certified under ADA as a protected class, so by definition, whatever we're using this for will fall within the CDBG guidelines.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your time.
Next, we have CCI.
Hi, Lauren. Congratulations.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. My name is Lauren Franchamore. I'm the Executive Director of Community Centers, Inc. And tonight we are applying for support for our comprehensive educational program. This program encompasses a variety of different programs and is provided for free for children and families living in Greenwich Public Housing. It is essentially run by social workers, and transportation is provided daily for all activities. We conduct homework clubs at 4 elementary schools, Julian Curtis New Lebanon ISD, and Hamilton Avenue, as well as a breakfast club at Julian Curtis. Being on site at each school allows us to communicate with the school personnel, the social workers, the principals, and really build a rapport, and in that sense help the families as well. Tutoring is offered during a weekly activity for grade school children, and each housing unit has a weekly drop-in center in which the kids and families are able to seek support with computer access and school assignments. We also run a free 8-week summer program for typically about 75 to 80 youth per summer, and that involves a reading component and a career vocational component for older youth. And we collaborate with the schools on our summer reading as well as volunteer opportunities for the older youth. Last year, we successfully served 352 children and families, and we continue to organize our activities to address the achievement gap and lessen summer learning loss. And we have some pretty good stats on improvements in the homework clubs for these kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Absolutely valuable, wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you. No questions?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
But not prejudiced.
And we really appreciate your support. We really good about you. Thanks.
Child guidance.
Hi, my name is Georgette Harrison. I'm the Community Office Director for Child Guidance Center of Southern Connecticut. And with me is Diana Manganelli, our Chief of Clinical and Community Services. Thank you again for the opportunity to present our proposal to the Advisory Committee tonight on behalf of CGC, and we'd like to express our appreciation for previous allocations. As you know, CGC is an outpatient mental health agency that provides children, adolescents, and families with a range of services such as diagnostic assessment, treatment, and support services for a full range of social, emotional, and behavioral problems. And we're requesting $20,000 to subsidize the services for Greenwich youth, whose families are categorized as low income according to state HUD guidelines. These funds are essential to delivering timely access to mental health treatment and support services for Greenwich families in need. Youth referred to CGC struggle with a range of psychiatric disorders. Priority access is given to children who present as a risk to themselves or to others due to suicidal ideation, violent or self-destructive behavior, or severe impairments in judgment. Children who experience or have a history of trauma, loss of a loved one, sexual, physical abuse, or neglect are also among our priority cases. As everyone has mentioned tonight, funding from state foundations, corporate sources, and local United Ways for mental health services has declined. While we continue to pursue these traditional sources of support, funding from community partners like the Greenwich CDBG is critical in order to continue to provide these services for Greenwich families, regardless of their financial situation. And to date, we're happy to say that CGC has never turned away a family just because of their inability to pay. But in order to be able to do that, we really rely on community support. Now, in order to answer the question that you had asked earlier about what would happen if we didn't get full funding. So if we got partial funding or less than full funding, that would mean that families would stay on our wait list for longer. Because we wouldn't be able to provide those services, exactly. Which means that the longer that they stay on the wait list, the more severe their symptoms by the time that they reach us. And the more, typically, the more they have to stay in treatment. And also at that point, their academic performance and even just their willingness to go to school has been impacted. So we continue to prioritize based on need, but really these are children that can't afford the wait. So thank you again for this opportunity to present to the advisory committee.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Alan has a question.
How have you seen, the growth in need since the hospital has gotten out of the business of taking care of children with psychiatric needs?
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen, I think probably every mental health provider in the area has seen a really significant increase in the need, and actually also the type of need. So definitely children with much more serious psychiatric symptoms that are having to resort to outpatient services as opposed to having gone to other services. So definitely the need has increased.
And how long is your wait list for right now?
So right now with our new executive director, what we're doing is we're actively hiring so that our wait list is maintained at a minimum. So right now for Greenwich, within a couple of weeks.
Let's say I needed to see a doctor, not a therapist. I was waiting to see a real doctor, and I was a child. How long would I have to wait?
To see our child psychiatrist, it would depend on the level of urgency. So that's why we're not avoiding the question. It's just every day, with each request for service, we triage to determine the level of need and the level of urgency. So a child that is definitely in need of seeing a psychiatrist because of acute symptoms would not wait. So it could be within a week. If it were an immediate need that given day, then that is probably not an outpatient case. That is probably a situation where pardon me?
Right, you send the van or the...
Exactly, right, where our emergency mobile crisis services would become involved. So there's clinical judgment involved in that, but we are, just to speak to your question, it's not so much the number of kids, it's really more the level of intensity of need. So kids that heretofore were being served for longer terms in the hospital or more day kinds of intensive programs are really coming to outpatient now, and we're having
They're getting basically less service than they had before.
Well, yeah,
By necessity.
or we are trying to intensify their service packages so that we can keep them safe in the
But
the
to the
community.
level that you can.
But to the level that we can.
I'm sorry, did you finish?
No, I'm good.
Can you identify yourself, and also I just
I'm
want to...
so sorry, yes.
I want to ask a question about the relationship with the hospital.
Sure. So I'm Diana Manganelli, and I oversee the clinical services for the agency, and Georgette is our Greenwich office director. So, yeah.
Are you working closely with the local hospitals? And I guess I don't know if I've missed here. Are the hospitals not addressing mental health issues of children when they come in, say, to an emergency room with an acute mental health issue? What's happening?
Well, so they are, the strongest relationship that we have with the hospitals is through our emergency mobile psychiatric services. I think that what you were, Alan was referring to is the closing of the child's psychiatric clinic, right.
The Greenwich Hospital doesn't
Exactly.
service children anymore.
Right.
Well, that was
So if
my,
you show
that's
up-
my
So that-
question.
right.
If you show
Because
up
they've-
in the emergency room,
Right.
they've redesigned the emergency room, so there are 6 different holding centers
Right.
where they can keep you overnight and
Well,
keep
they
you
call
safe
them.
until
Right.
somebody
Right.
can show up other than the hospital.
They hold you while they outsource.
But they're not moving children. Are they calling you?
Well,
Are
they would call us if they thought that crisis services could help to stabilize the situation and avoid
But they
having to
don't
send a
treat,
child to
they
a different
simply
hospital.
hold.
They would, right.
They just
would
simply hold
manage-
them
they
until
would-
somebody
they would
else can
manage
treat.
that, until somebody else, and if they need to go inpatient, they would be going elsewhere.
How long has this been going on? When did they stop this?
The closure is recent. I don't know of the Greenwich, off the top of my head, I don't know.
It's in the last year that they actually stopped servicing,
it's
but
the
they've
state.
been
Yeah,
talking
I-
about it for
Yeah.
last
It's
year.
the state
I'm,
financing that's
honestly-
pushed it.
And I know that our executive director has, has been in communication and collaboration with Greenwich Hospital. I can't tell you exactly when.
Excuse me,
I'm sorry.
could I ask you, now, all right, we have a lot of psychiatric problems, and this is Greenwich, and we grow them, we're specialists in it. Most of us are
Not unique to
dysfunctional of some
Greenwich.
form.
Not unique.
But the thing that really concerns me, as we were talking about last time you were here, is the suicide situation, which is upfront and immediate. You can't really put a suicide, I mean, somebody's talking about the VA hospital and call up with somebody who's suicidal, they say, well, we can talk to you in 2 weeks, which is basically nothing. We have problems with suicide around. We don't like to talk about it, but it's clear and present. This is one of the things that you do with you have the emergency response,
We do.
which is one of the critical services that you perform.
Yes.
That's, immediate now, present, pull them out of the hole.
Absolutely, it is.
Could you
one
talk
of the
about
critical-
that?
Sure. I don't manage or oversee the emergency mobile psychiatric services. Dr. Jessica Welch does, so I'm not, I'm probably not the best person.
I'm just talking about programs.
But as an agency, it is the critical service that we provide, and it's 7 days a week. And there has definitely, I can't tell you the statistics off the top of my head, but we know that there's been, a significant increase in the volume of kids that have critical crisis needs over the last.
Is there any agency other in Greenwich that provides that same service?
No, not to my knowledge, no.
Thank you. So you're it.
We are it, yeah, the child guidance.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's what they got to understand. That's your last.
YMCA.
Thank you, by
I
the
was
way.
looking at Boys and Girls Club, and then I realized I'm calling YMCA.
That's where I grew up.
His son plays baseball with my son, and so I was just
YMCA.
thinking like.
YMCA used to be a boys' club.
Well, good evening. I'm David Cohen, Director of Educational Programs in St. Roch for the YMCA of Greenwich, celebrating our 100th year here in town. And over at St. Roch, we serve children from infancy, 6 weeks, all the way up through 5th grade. And you guys have been so generous in past years, helping us to rebuild our preschool playground, which is for the 3 to 5 age. And right now, we're coming to you asking for improvement money for our toddler playground, which is basically from when children are mobile until they turn 3. It's a wooden structure that we have now that has definitely given us its best years. In anticipation of hopefully receiving this grant money, we gave it kind of one final facelift right now. So when our friends come out to visit tomorrow, you'll see we painted it and kind of, made it look as nice as possible. What we're doing over at St. Roch is really laser focused on ending the achievement gap, starting from infancy and going right on through after school. And to do that, we've set up a model that is fairly self-sustaining. I mean, it certainly relies on a lot of private grants and such, but we don't get any government funding to run our programs. And that's worked out so well in a way that we have 63% of our families low and moderate income, and then the remaining families able to pay full rate. So that's how we keep the model afloat. And what it's done is it's let families with young children continue to work, single parents go to work, or dual working families, and it's just made a tremendous difference. In the past 3.5 years, we've gone from being under-enrolled throughout to being at complete capacity right now. We're actually expanding our after-school program from what used to be 17, now 65, and next year up to 120. So it's continue to try to move and bob with the community need. And infant and toddler is just a huge need. We only have a couple of partners like family centers who serve that need for low-income families.
Thank you. Does anyone have Alan?
Yeah, what percentage of the children that go to your programs receive scholarship?
Right now, of our early childhood program receives about 40% of the families, and our after-school families, it's a little bit over 50%.
Yeah, it seems to me that I was on one of the subcommittees a couple of years back that went and looked at this playground, and I remember that it was in pretty bad shape. And I remember also at the same time there were some neighbors and everything that were going to rebuild it for you. Whatever happened?
So that grant went through. You guys provided a big chunk of the money, and we actually did it as a community build. It was fantastic. About 50 adults, half of which were families from the program, and half of which were Morgan Stanley volunteers. We made it a work day for them. We still have kids that are in first and second grade coming back saying, "My mom built that playground." My dad. So it was great.
So the playground was built. This is not the same playground?
No, we have two playgrounds. The one
Okay,
that was
that's
built
why I'm
was for the 3 to
confused.
5s, and this is for the younger children.
Well, the one that I was thinking was down the hill and way in the back. kinda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So you walk
And
through
where's
the one.
this one?
This is the one that you walk through to get to that program.
Okay.
So they're kind of jumped on each
Thank
other.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Boys and girls.
Come to man.
First of all, good evening, everyone. I'm Bobby Walker Jr. I'm the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. And I'm here to talk about safety and security again. Last year when we came, we talked about making some pretty significant, and I would dare say needed improvements in the safety of our facility. As we began to look at not only what we offer to kids, but are we keeping them as safe as possible? And that's sort of the spiel last year. And the problem was, you guys gave us money. And so we continued to look at what are our needs? Because last time we talked about expanding the PA system, which again, did not serve 3 of the largest program areas. And I'm not sure back when the building was designed, there's no PA system in our gym, in our hockey rink, and in our pool. The 3 largest areas were their kids. And when the police department came out in 2013 and did a walk around, they also saw a desperate lack of camera surveillance. And so that was the grant from last year. Well, the problem was San Bernardino. That particular massacre unfortunately took place shortly before a board meeting this year.
Yeah.
And in that board meeting, the conversation actually turned to exactly how safe is our facility. So we actually met with Tom Bobkowski from the Board of Education, who directs all the security measures for Greenwich Public Schools, and we sought his advice. And so what he really talked a lot about, the more surveillance cameras you have, it allows you to be in a central location and notice more of what's going on. And so what we realized is that even the cameras that we sought to install last year actually won't be enough, not for a facility of our size and not for the number of students that we actually serve. So with, anywhere from 300 to 350 kids out on the field, on the second floor, down in the basement, in the pool, in the rink, the cameras we have only served a few areas. There are still pretty significant areas that aren't being properly surveyed. That's the main lobby, which is where when any adult comes into the building, we actually have no cameras in that particular area. As you look at our hockey rink, which is our annex, there are no cameras in that area, and so we have a lot of people, particularly with hockey, that are coming in on weekends. And so as we began to realize this, we realized that, we asked for a lot last year, but we actually didn't ask for enough. And so we've made security actually one of our top priorities. And I'm also standing here saying that we made it such a big commitment that Tom Bobkowski also talked about access control. And that's something we did not apply for money for, that we're going to try to actually raise that money ourselves so that the more expensive project, the club will try to take on. And we came back asking for cameras and then to ask for interior door locks to complete this first round of our security upgrades.
Who has a question?
I finished.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it?
Listen, I've been there for less than 2 years, and being a school person, which is my background, it was pretty amazing to look at the fact that we were not doing a lot properly taking care of the young people there in terms of safety. I mean, if you look at it, it's in many ways, it's as important as a school. We have as many kids on certain days as a majority of the elementary schools, and on some days when we've had upwards around 500, we'd actually be one of the larger elementary schools right now. So we've added things like we bought 40 walkie-talkies that we actually have in the building right now, so that at least we can talk among ourselves. So we've been taking incremental steps, but those were about the people and personnel. What we had not talked about was the infrastructure that's needed to actually keep the facility as safe as possible.
Well, I'm just thinking that you're probably as most accessible to the interstate than any school or anything else around.
I mean, our location is, and that was what came up at the board meeting.
You talk about an in and out.
I mean, what came up at the board meeting, our proximity to 95, the fact that we're right at the exit to the train station, and there was, the Greenwich Police Department, I had a talk, there was an incident at a bank on Greenwich Avenue, and no one ever called us.
Well, I remember when there was a kid almost killed in front of, there was beaten up by a gang in front of the boys' club a few years back. That almost got, it was a sailor from one of the sailor competitions, championships, was walking by the boys' club on the way back to Belhaven, where he was a guest, at a house, and one of the local gangs jumped him and almost beat him to death. Fortunately, somebody intervened, but he almost died.
Well, see, one of the things we've done
because of that access is what I'm getting at.
It is a very open building. I mean, if you've ever been there,
Mean streets of Greenwich.
It's what we celebrate. We love the fact that we allow people to come through, but it's also a problem. And after talking with the board and talking with Tom, we realized we actually have a lot more to do. We're working with the training of the staff right now, but again, I'm here to talk about the need for improvements in the infrastructure that helps to keep our facilities safe. And you'll probably see that this is something that we're going to work on probably for the next several years, because there's a lot more that has to be done. These are the immediate steps with Tom's advice of what we could do to make the facility as safe as possible right now, and then look at some major capital improvements in terms of the entryway and actually how do we bring people in the building, which will probably involve construction costs, but that's years away.
Your Halloween costume was pretty scary.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You have that wonderful sort of outside play area. Would you be putting cameras out there? Because I would think that it's right on the street, it's super close to the road and the train station, and making sure the kids are safe out there.
I think that once we have preliminary locations of where these cameras are going to go, but one of the things we need to look at, that's also a driveway, and that driveway accesses the rear of our building. And so making sure that that area is properly being observed is really important to us. So we would have that as one of the areas. Again, the main area where there are adults that actually come in our building does not have the proper surveillance. And the surveillance at the front entryway we found when something was actually taken once is that it's actually not sufficient to catch what's going on there. So we have to add another camera to the main lobby downstairs. So, I mean, again, there's a lot to be done in that facility, and it's a great place, but again, safety and security was not the priority when that building was first designed. Yes.
Have you had many security issues happen there?
Luckily, we have not. The last big security issue happened right before I arrived. I came in July of 2014. In April of 2014, there was a man who wandered into the building. He clearly had some sort of mental incapacity, and he wandered harmlessly up to the 3rd floor, but no one knew who he was. He had no reason to be in the building, and you can just imagine sort of where those discussions took place. What if this man had some bad intent? Luckily, it was just a simple conversation, but this is why training of our staff is important. All that had to have happened was someone needed to go and ask him, "Sir, may I help you?" And these are some of the things that we're really working on that in many ways doesn't cost money, that also makes the facility as safe as possible. We've not had any major issue since I've been there. But as the board keeps thinking, they think it's more luck than it is design. And I want to make sure that it's really because we've worked really hard to prevent something as opposed to reacting.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, kid.
Community Health Center? Yay. Last one standing.
Oh, he's coming.
We got Byram.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Juliana Marin. I'm the operations manager for the Community Health Center. Amy and Adele, assistant to the president, apologize for not being here today. I just want to thank you for all your generosity supporting our dental program for our seniors. As you know, we are a nonprofit organization and we are a federal qualified health center. We are asking you to please support us with $10,000 to support our project. As you know, you have been supporting this for the past couple of years. We're very thankful for that. This funding is mostly to serve our seniors over 60 years old. Our main mission is to assist those that are under level of poverty. As well as you know, Medicare does not offer dental coverage. Obamacare only offers to young children. And some of our commercial insurance don't cover dental as well. With this funding, patients are eligible for getting an evaluation, x-rays, fillings, crowns, dentures, they cover everything, fillings. And so, you know, we want to continue offering these services to our seniors, and we've noticed that Greenwich residents have benefit very much on this fund. I want to say that for the year of 2015, we were able to provide services to 297 patients and also a total of 1,244 visits on dental only. We have approximately 2,281 patients that go to our dental office, and we have a total of 5,700 patients agency-wide. Do you have any questions for me?
If I understand correctly, the purpose of this program is preventative dental care, to catch them cleaning, maintenance of their teeth so that they don't go into worse conditions. Without this kind of service, they would start getting into medical problems.
Correct.
And that becomes then they become hospitalized. As I think the last time, not you, but the other lady from were saying that this becomes a severe health problem for the seniors that deteriorates very quickly in their general health care and becomes expensive. And for some reason, dental care is not considered medical under Medicare and these other,
Correct, and dental,
ignored.
It is very expensive, and those that have Medicaid, there are certain procedures that are not covered. And I don't know if everyone's aware, but dentures, you can only get it every 7 years.
But basically, $10 of care now prevents thousands of dollars of problems later.
Correct, and also thanks to the SWACA and our Ruth Brown Foundation, and of course the CDBG, it's what actually supports this program for our seniors.
What's the percentage or the number of those 297 that are Greenwich residents?
What is the percentage of?
Of your clients that are Greenwich residents?
I believe approximately 40% are Greenwich. We see patients from all over Connecticut, Wilton, New Canaan, Norwalk. They come to Stamford.
The proximity would be.
But approximately 40%.
But I'm saying because of the proximity of Greenwich, Stamford, that's your main
Correct, yeah.
client
And
base.
the Greenwich Medical Clinic, the family agency, the FCA from Greenwich, they usually refer those patients to
Department of
us.
Social
And
Services.
Senior Center and Medical Health Department, correct.
Oh, Wilma has the questions.
So is there another agency that offers dental care aside from yourself to seniors?
Not that I'm aware in Stanford. I know Medicaid, other offices take Medicaid, but not seniors without dental coverage.
How many dentists do you have?
We currently have two. And one hygienist.
Are they salaried? Or they
They're
volunteer?
salary. Yes.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, does anyone know where the Byron Volunteer Fire Department
He was here earlier. Thompson? Should I just call him?
JT might be downstairs.
Oh, should we call?
Yeah,
That's
I would call.
I'm gonna run to the ladies' room while we're waiting for him.
Good luck in the playoffs.
We're calling.
Oh, my goodness. That's Anthony.
Crazy. Oh, and how many years have you been doing this?
You know, it's neat. Most of the people who shift flyers of these, like, I've been to the dental center, I went to, the one thing I always think is. Hi, Naomi Schiffler.
I know, one of my partners. I mean, I don't understand that. I don't understand why it would be because of the state or even the town, not. And I was looking at it, those are Cyrus.
Oh,
They went.
oh, okay. Okay. So, our meeting is adjourned officially. Our last presenter wasn't here, so we'll see y'all.